should say record. Here they come. Hi, everybody. We're just going to wait a minute or two until folk have managed to get into the meeting. All right, people still coming in a bit. I wait until it slows to a trickle and then we can make a kickoff. All right. There's still a few folk coming in, but as we do that, I just introduce myself. I'm Roger Cressy. I'm a group director for the Cubics Group. We operate all over the world delivering ERP, EPM, and analytics. But in the part that really has been very enjoyable and interesting for me over the last few years is that I volunteer for the AUC. I've got it all around, ANDOUC, Analytics and Data Oracle User Community. And one of my privileges is to work with and host TechCasts. And today we're going to have a TechCast delivered by Dan and Tim Vlamis. And they're going to talk to us about enterprise success with Oracle Analytics. So welcome, gents. In the meantime, before I actually hand over to them and give you over to their broad knowledge, I'd just like to do some housekeeping. So Dan, if we could, Tim, whoever's driving, we just move. Okay, so we've got merchandise. It's not, it's actually not your ordinary stuff. It's been custom designed by one of our own. Abby Jalzi has put it all together for us, and there's some really good stuff in there. In fact, you'll see it being demonstrated at the moment.
I've even got my color changing mug.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so please go and see the website. You'll find a merchandise page for it there. Can we carry on next? Just to talk about TechCasts, these TechCasts are available on our archive on the website. They're on YouTube. And there's a wealth of knowledge contained in these. You can see just some of our past, Jeremy Simmons, Patrick Wheeler and Ashish Jain, Ralph Mueller. But we have a lot of core Oracle product knowledge coming through. And we also have some very good customer presentations. So please submit your proposals for presentations through on the TechCast site. You'll see it's highlighted there. I will cut and paste all of these into the chat for you a little bit later. So up next.
We also have is what is the data lakehouse?
Yeah, that's coming up.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, December the 16th, and that's Edel and Mark Rittman and Stuart Bryson and Holger Friedrich. It's actually going to be a panel where we're going to have all these boffins discuss what it really is and what it is in practical reality. So yeah, join us for that as well, December the 16th. So before you go off to get your Christmas libations. So let's carry on. We've also got TechCast Days. So this is in February next year, the winter sessions. I think there's a theme coming on there. We could do something about the winter soldiers and winter sessions or something. But we've got 3 days again, broken up into our machine learning, spatial and graph and analytics. You'll find all the details of that on our website. And there's lots of ways to connect with us. You'll see that we've got Slack, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We have a newsletter which is published. If you can subscribe to it and get in your inbox every day. So again, I'll pop a whole lot of these links directly into the chat shortly. Next, sir. Okay, so now's the time where I just, one more thing in terms of housekeeping that I'd like to just add is that if you do have questions, please do not put them in the chat. Please put them in the Q&A area. I also will be running a poll at the end of this, so it'd be great if you could participate in those. But without further ado, let me introduce, we've got Dan Vlamis. He's an Oracle ACE Director, President of Vlamis Software Solutions, surprising name there. And he's been working in this technology. Actually, he's someone I can at least say has been around longer than I have. He's been working in these technologies. He speaks at conferences and is nationally recognized. So, and then Tim is the VP and Analytics Strategist of Vlamis Software Solutions. And pretty much, if it looks like BI or analytics or twitches in that direction, he knows something about it. He's also an Oracle ACE Director. So yeah, there are the only Oracle ACE directors who are brothers. So, and I think it's a little bit like the mafia. So you've got to watch out for the Vlamis brothers. So without further ado, I'm going to switch off my camera, turn off my voice, and hand over to these gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Roger, for the introduction.
Thanks, Roger.
Appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about enterprise success with Oracle Analytics. And give you a little bit of background on how you can make sure that your analytics projects are successful, and give some of that background. A little bit about where we come from, who we are. We're founded over coming up on 30 years ago in Kansas City. That's where we're speaking to you from. And we have all sorts of clients. We consult in this enterprise business intelligence and analytics area. We also work with something we call analytic warehousing. Different take on data warehousing where you focus on getting the data out as opposed to putting the data in. We also happen to be authors of the book on data visualization for Oracle Business Intelligence. And we're also a service partner, very proud of being one of the few, in addition to Cubics, as I understand, for the earning the expertise in Oracle Cloud Platform Business Analytics. There aren't that many of us, and would love to work with you all. So today, this is a preview, if you will, of a course that Tim and I are going to be giving next week for 3 hours. And so we've extracted some portions of this. You'll get a sense of what this is. You can sign up for the course. It's free with a 10-day trial from the O'Reilly live training platform. You have to register, though, the day before. This is not one of those where you sign up at the last minute. You have to register, pre-register the day before.
Dan, you might mention we have 3 other courses. So we have a total of 4 courses with O'Reilly. So yeah. So
we're doing this is
the one is the Oracle Analytics one. Is the one you want.
We have a course now specifically on Oracle Analytics, as opposed to the others have been more general purpose,
right.
Data visualization, analytic warehousing, and modeling complex data.
Yeah.
You'll find all that information on vlamis.com/O'Reilly, and that's where the link is for signing up for the course. So if you like this, you can find out more. With that, I'm going to kind of turn things over to Tim, kind of set things up, and then we do have demos as part of this that you'll see later on in the presentation.
Yeah, Dan, so I'm going to switch the deck. I'm going to present my deal, and
you can advance the slides yourself instead of relying on your brother. I always seem to be a little bit behind Tim on advancing the deck.
And let's see, am I presenting the slide deck? There we are. Okay, so what we want to talk, we are talking about enterprise solutions. We're going to show you guys some pretty simple demos, but really, what we find, and when we're working with a lot of the large corporate clients and government groups or whatnot, there are a lot of solutions out there that are at a small scale, and you can do very, very exotic things, and we liken it to gardening. So you can garden at a small scale and grow amazing fruit and vegetables, but as soon as you start to do it for thousands of them, you have to literally think about it differently. So what we're proposing today is thinking about things at that larger scale. Now, what I want you guys to do is picture a just giant resort hotel, okay, that has, you know, all different kinds of features and places to go and places to eat. And what we're, even though you can get food and drink pretty much at the pool or in room service or anywhere, what we're focusing on today is the main dining room and kitchen, okay? So we're focusing on kind of the experience of dining at the major hub of the resort, not everywhere. Because Dan, would you agree that every single product has analytics in it now?
Yeah,
Right?
it's become prevalent in all the products.
Yeah. And so what we're literally thinking of doing is, rather than doing small scale, we're thinking of feeding thousands of people. So as we conceptualize this, we think of the raw data as the raw ingredients that we use in the kitchen. So, you know, freshness, quality, variety, all those things are hugely important to analytics. And we want to use the fresh ingredients. You know, we're not going to focus a lot on that today, but I will tell you that it's very difficult to work with analytics when you don't have good quality data. And what we think of is the technique, the kind of the skill part is really in the kitchen. This is like the data modeling and whatnot that Dan's going to go through, and we're going to talk somewhat about whether we do it in the analytics cloud or whether we do it in the autonomous data warehouse. So we'll kind of compare and contrast those. And really what I want to start, and where we typically start with clients and start with engagements, is how do you use it? What's the experience? So we see that as the data visualization, the front end, if you will, which is what people actually experience when they're using analytic systems, as opposed to kind of being the chefs that start with the data quality and, you know, this recipe and that, and kind of then, why don't people like my food? Well, the reason they don't like it because you don't have a good wait staff, and, you know, it's not clean up front. So in any case, we're focusing on these two things: Oracle Analytics, Oracle Analytics Cloud, which is an extremely comprehensive business and intelligence analytics platform, if you will. It has many different interfaces and components and whatnot. And then the back of the house, which is the autonomous data warehouse, which is a cloud-based version of the Oracle database, specifically designed for enterprise data warehousing. So if you will, this is the dining room, that's the kitchen. There's the front of the house, the back of the house, the front end, the back end. So that's the way we're kind of thinking of this. And remember the example of the resort: you can prepare food at the tableside, or you can get something at the pool. We're really thinking of these in the traditional sense. So you can do a lot of different things in ADW. You can do a lot of data modeling in Oracle Analytics, okay? All right, with that, Dan, is it okay if I go to demo?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if people like PowerPoint slides, please put in the Q&A. We want more PowerPoint slides because we have, I don't know, what, 150 of them or whatnot we're going to show in O'Reilly.
Well, and the thing to point out, some of the rules behind this, Tim will demonstrate some of this. We decided for this thing, we have to go through it quickly, so you don't have it in the slides, but we'll go through that more on Tuesday.
Okay, all right,
so go ahead.
So what we're looking at here is Oracle Analytics Cloud. So this is the front of the house. And what we're looking at is an example of a dashboard of a framework that where we typically start with our client engagements. And so the point of showing you guys this is to show that we have a topic tile. What we're doing is we're saying we're doing sales analysis for August, and this is the topic of this dashboard, if you will, okay? And by making it big and making it in the visually most visible spot, which is the upper left, we're saying this is what we're addressing in this particular dashboard page. Now notice we have a summary page and we have detail pages. We often start with a summary, and what we try to do is keep it pretty simple. And we try to address the summary as an overview. So what you'll see here is that we break it down by product category. Okay, here are sales broken down by product dimension, if you will. And then we also break it down by the channel dimension so that we can look at direct sales versus the internet sales, etc. And here the topic is we want to make sure that we're recognizing that we're focusing on Europe. So to do that, we use a map. Why? Maps show the relationship of what's happening where very quickly, very easily. And they also are easily legible and people understand them intuitively. So we try to use maps in most of our dashboards. Whenever there's any kind of data related to location, we prefer to see it on a map. And then of course, time is hugely important. So we're showing the 5 weeks of August here, and we try to keep this simple. We are using simple graphs. So bar graphs, line graphs, maps, scatter plots. That's about what we use in most of our visualizations. Now, one of the things that you should know about Oracle Analytics Cloud is that it is pretty easy to add machine learning and whatnot. We're going to address some about machine learning. I just want to show you, like if you wanted to add a trend line for this, we can right click. And now what we're seeing is the overall trend on a simple basis, on a linear basis for the month. We can see that it's going up, even though we have this up and down pattern. Overall, it's rising. Okay, and the confidence intervals are actually, narrower in, as it's rising as opposed to when it's falling. All right, so this is kind of our summary that's breaking this down. The other thing you'll notice is that we're keeping relatively simple prompts. We see this as kind of somebody who's managing overall Europe. They may have a particular country manager or whatnot who's only seeing a version of this. So if we only keep Germany, for example, and we focus on Germany, we're going to see the same presentation of the data in the same format so that we get an understanding. And we're consistent in how different people are looking at their particular countries and whatnot. So everybody basically fundamentally gets the same dashboard. All right, as we drill into kind of, and I could have navigated from the summary page to the product page, what we're going to do is now we're going to break this down by the dimensions. So now we're going to replicate our major graph here that's looking at it by product category. And in essence, this becomes a new topic for this particular page. So we try to maintain that consistency in terms of what's going in the upper left. And then we add detail as we're looking at the product categories. So here we're kind of doing the cross-dimensional look in terms of looking at it by channels. Here we get the details, and by countries here, we're seeing it by country. Actually, this allows us to see the same data in terms of mobile phone, photo, the total, but broken out by the different dimensions. Dan, I want to mention that we're using actually a different color palette, and talk a little bit about Redwood. For those of you who are not aware, Oracle has this this new user interface theme that they're applying across all their products and whatnot called Redwood. And it's really bringing a sense of coherence to their overall set of products. And what they have is they actually do have a, the colors are going to change in OAC. Now, what we're using is something called Redwood Light. Now, what Oracle has done is the Redwood palette is right here. You can see it, and it is optimized for color blindness and for contrast, and also as kind of a warm take, a warmer look to the interface and a consistent look. We slightly modified Redwood to develop something called Redwood Light, which actually is more balanced. So these Redwood colors are up, they have a high degree of contrast. And what we've done is we've lessened that contrast so that we're not artificially emphasizing one particular group or over another. So this is kind of, you have to decide which one you want to pick. Here, what we want to say is we want to have equal weight to internet partners and direct sales. So we've gone to a website called I Want Hue, and we've plugged in the redwood colors and actually developed a new palette based on it. I think there's only 3 different colors, Dan. So there's a blog out on
tweaking.
it. Yeah, so there's, let's see, there's a blog that we have that goes through the technical part of why we did it and what the different distance calculations are, and kind of scrolls through how to do all this stuff. All right, so it's there for your guys' reference in terms
I
of.
put a link to it in the chat, Tim.
Yeah, okay. So so what we're doing also, there's a couple other things I want to point out quickly, and we're going to push along. We use these grid heat maps quite a lot to break things down by multiple dimensions, so that as we're looking at something, we can see both across time as well as and compare down the different values. This is a particularly effective visualization technique for getting across kind of this cross dimensionality. So here we've happened to pick the product category as well as time and whatnot. So this is this actually replicates the line graph over here. It's the exact same data. One of the best practices I'd encourage you guys to pick up is to not be concerned that every graph has to have different data. What we find is when we show the same things 2 different ways, we actually get better insights. So people see an insight quickly on one graph or one visualization, and they see a different one here. So here they're seeing the actual pattern over time. What's the shape of the line? And here what they're looking at is what's the relative position and value of that total. And of course, we always include the hover over highlights. All right. One of the other things I just wanted to quickly go through is our difference graphs. So what we're showing here is this is the sales difference from August and July. So what happened this month? So it's one thing to graph, just discrete data, raw data, if you will. It's something else to say, all right, here's the value for August, here's the value for July, but what is the difference? What's the white space between those bars? So in essence, by graphing that white space as its own graph, we can start to see the pattern as to what's going on in a much clearer way, in a much more comparatively direct way than by trying to interpolate the white space and see those differences. And then, of course, when we actually have customers, we have these different channels, and we want to see how did they do by the different channel from the previous month, we can start to get insights relatively quickly in terms of where they're up, where they're down. So these are the top sales difference here. Everybody's obviously up. If we took a particular city or whatnot, we would see some people are down in one area, they're up in another. The other thing that we use quite a lot are scatter plots, often called by some of our executive clients the dot graph. But what we can see is a tremendous amount of detail for a relatively small area on the dashboard. So we're looking at all the customers here broken out by channel. And what you'll find is if we pick a particular country, let's say we just pick United Kingdom, and it'll keep selected, we're going to find that we can quickly grab those top customers and see these differences and what's going on for United Kingdom also. And that way we can really start to dive in to these, under the analytic understanding. And that is churning away. So this will come back in a second. So again, we're using this kind of up and down, this difference, grid heat map to show who's up, who's down, and we can see it at a glance. And oftentimes we'll put the table at the bottom. So here we'll do, here's the sales difference amount, then here's the July and the August amount. I would also encourage you guys to use smaller tables as opposed to just big tables. We could do a big pivot table and fit July, August, and the difference between July and August in one table. The problem is it's hard to scan. It's actually faster and easier for users to have a single, have two places to look it up than it is to have one table. It gets really confusing. So I'm going to kill this.
Tim, one of the things I wanted to do was to show how you built that first canvas.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, because I think
All right.
yeah, query canceled. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and show
You're gonna
how to build.
Yeah.
How to build what Tim showed. So one of the things we like to do is show a little bit of the behind the scenes. It's one thing to create lots of visualizations on this, but how do you build this type of dashboard? And this is the type of stuff we talk about, is how do you go to create this type of thing? What's the think behind it? All right, am I sharing my screen? You can see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
super. So I've got that same workbook that Tim is in, and I'm going to, here's what Tim created. I'm going to create that from scratch here. And I'll also, if I have time, show you how we actually map some of this data. We're using some of the data, the demo data that Oracle provided. But here I've got a canvas, and I'm going to just drag over sales amount. I create a new canvas. It's called Canvas 6, and I've had drag over sales amount. It will query the database, and this is going after some raw tables that we have, and look at sales amount for the time periods that I had chosen. I'm going to get rid of sales date, and it'll change this to a sales amount here for a performance tile. So that's what Tim had over here, is that performance tile. All right. And then I want to filter this to just the month of August 2018. So I'm going to drag that up to the filter bar, and I want to just pick up August 2018. Now this filter bar is available for all of the canvases that you have. This one is pinned, so it applies to all the canvases. This one just applies to this one canvas, and now we see that amount. If I want to then add, look at this by, let's see, Tim had in here this broken down by product category. So I'm going to take and grab sales amount for a product category, expand that, and I had product category, and if I control click and take sales amount, product category, and now just create the best visualization based on that, it adds then automatically a bar graph because it thinks that's the best visualization for that. Now I can right click this guy and select duplicate. This is what I do a lot of. When I want to break this down in a different way, I actually start with one visualization, duplicate it, and then change it. And we're going to change this to then be by channel instead. And I'm showing you purposefully different ways to do this so you can see what the interface does. And I'll change that to by product channel instead of by product category. And I'm going to change that to be a horizontal bar chart. And we had that over on this side. So I'm going to go back and drag this down here. And I'll have it on this side. Come on. There it goes. All right. So I have that over there. And I have that by product category. And now if I want to break that down as well by country, I'll show you a different way. If I grab my sales amount. And I also click on countries and I want to look at it by country name. And I'm going to pick a visualization. In this case, I want to look, because I'm looking at it by countries, I want to look at this as a map. So it grabs country name and looks at the sales amount by country. But then I think the last thing we wanted to do was add this where we had sales and look at that by time.
Up at the
And
top.
I've got
yeah.
up here by week of year. And I'm going to pick a visualization here and make that a line graph. All right, so now, and I think we had this down in the corner. If by default puts it there, but I want it down here. And then what I've done is shown you a little bit of how you create these things from scratch. Here's what Tim had
Hey, Dan,
in his, and then here's what I have. Yep, go ahead.
take the lines off the line graph just because it's particularly egregious. For those of you who don't know, the whole point of a line graph is to see the shape. And as soon as you put grid lines on it, it destroys the shape. So we.
By the way, a new feature
never
in
wanna
OAC
have
they added was the ability to turn multiple visualizations. All these have common
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
properties. And I can turn all of those off in
Yep.
one fell swoop and
There we
take
go.
the grid lines off. Okay, so that, and then you can drag these things around and change, you know, where I want this top point between these, but it gives you a sense of how you can build these canvases up. I can change the sort order, all sorts of stuff in here to exactly mimic what you have. But this gives you a sense of how you can build these things back and forth. Okay, I guess I needed to change the color on here, the palette color, that type of stuff. But you can, all this is done through this control
Yeah.
of changing individual visualizations. You have all of the controls for this to change the colors and such for all these in here. All right. Tim, I'm going to go on. Do you have anything else, or I'll go on with the slides?
Go. Well, yeah, no, it's fine. I was going to say, I didn't show the cross trail. I was supposed to show that.
Wanna
So
show
click on, yeah, just click on, right click on computers. And drill to attribute hierarchy.
Yeah.
And drill to, channels. That's right.
Okay, so I'll look at it by channel description.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you before you got done. But so then you can, when you drill on these, it adds that to the filter up in the filter
Right.
bar. And then we're now looking at that for computers, looking at that broken down by channel.
The point I want to make is we are using this, we're featuring this in our training when we're working with organizations. And there's a lot of interactive capabilities that are actually very powerful. And what we want to do is kind of enable those analysts to interact with the data and find things interesting, but to actually use the tool that way, as opposed to kind of trying to literally imagine everything that they might want to see on a slice and dice basis. So that was the point.
I also want to show one other thing is how to create these data sets from scratch. Let me go ahead and go show that now, because I think people are especially interested in seeing the demo of this. I can save this away. I don't want to save my stuff. Tim has it in here. But I can also come in here and use, for the data, come up and build a connection where I can get at some of this data myself. So Oracle Analytics has the ability to have these purposeful built subject areas that you build in what's called an RPD file. We now also, with the data visualization interface, have the ability to access raw tables and go at those. And this is what we used for this demonstration for doing that. So I'm going to open up the admin schema and look at, here's sales demo. And I am now telling the software that I want to access that table. This is a list of all of my schemas, and I want to go after the sales demo table. And this is kind of like what we did before in getting at the data. Now, I want to actually look at this by customer. and we want to join, one of the things that are relatively new in the product is the ability to join multiple tables. I want to look at that by customers and by products, and I can drag those onto the canvas. Notice it gives me the distribution of the data as I do this, which is very nice for getting a sense of this data as we are exploring through the data. And it's grabbing those tables, and it looks to find how should these tables be joined, and it figures out the sales demo is in the middle, and it's a star with customers off to the left and products off to the right. It figures out the join pattern and figures out how to join customer ID with customer ID. You can change that from an inner join to a left to a right, and these have a little graphic to describe what the difference is between these, and I can change those. I can change what column I'm joining on. All that type of stuff is available in here. If you drop this down, I can change how I want the join to happen, that type of thing for going after this. I can also look for each of these. I can do a little bit of data scrubbing type capability and even filtering. So if I'm looking at postal code and I want to filter to just those for 63736, I can filter those, and it's just looking at just those records for here, looking in the customer. If under marital status here, if I undo my filter in here and look at this, I can see I've singled, married, and married makes up 26%. If I come down here, married with a capital M makes 3%. Well, somebody messed up on this. Tim, hopefully it wasn't you when you put these records in, but I'm going to fix it here and change the capital M married to make them consistent. And now we can see that's 29% of the data. And now I'll also come in here. You can see some of these are missing. That's what all that red bar is. And I want to change that to unknown. So now I can actually scrub the data a little bit as we go and take a look at that. And so now, as I look at all this, you can see what's going on for customer data. I can change all of that, and I'm seeing the data as I'm changing it. Indeed, it's building a script as we go along, so I can do this on a continual basis, not just this one time. And it says to replace customer marital status, and all these steps it keeps track of. All of that, if I want to then save this away, I can come here and save that, and I can give it a name, and demo 5. All right, and I'm going to save that away, and then I can start building a project based on that. And that's the process of doing this type of ad hoc exploration, a little bit of scrubbing, changing things. I can add new columns. I can change things from attributes to years. Here, this is messed up here. I want to make that an attribute, and I don't want the commas in a year of birth. There's these types of things that I can change back and forth in this. It changes the aggregation rules, all that type of stuff I can change. So then I can build a workbook off of this. Sure, go ahead and save the changes. Create a workbook off of this and start dragging these things over. That's the same exact process that I just showed. Give you a sense of some of the power. I can create calculated columns. There's all sorts of stuff that I don't really have time to show. All of that is what you can do in the front end. However, what I wanted to especially get across was that it's really the wrong place to do that type of scrubbing. If you want to do this on an enterprise basis, and this is what Tim and I kind of preach when we talk about this, you want to do this in a way with enterprise level tools where people can collaborate back and forth together. And you want to do this with industry standard tools. And the little type of scrubbing that I was doing is more of a, yeah, I just got to get it done, and I don't care about replicating it over and over for the entire enterprise. This is where this is important. Now what you can do is do this with the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, ADW, and that is in the Oracle database. You have all sorts of data types. You have a converged database. You can include analytic views. A graph database is built in. Built-in machine learning has columnar, row-based, all this type of stuff in the ADW database. This has all the autonomous features you're looking for and all of that. Good, Tim.
No, I do want to point out that one of the things that we're seeing a lot with cloud data warehousing and whatnot are kind of purpose-built databases at different clients. And so they'll have a data warehouse for their geospatial data, and they'll have another one for their graph, and they'll have another one for, the web information in terms of document databases, that kind of thing. And so what we're really seeing is that by using ADW, we can start to combine and have a single, we don't have to do all the integration work, which is a real pain in the you-know-what. So it's just, we're finding that converged database strategy to be very, very powerful. And we're starting to see it be adopted even by some of the competitors and whatnot. So we think it's exactly the right thing to do, which is to identify which data is most important, and then to build around that and let the edge cases be edge cases. And by focusing on the most important core, highly valuable, often used, very powerful data, and using it in all the different ways with the different capabilities in a single place, it's much more scalable, and actually you can get further faster. That was a major point. Yeah. Do your machine learning in the data warehouse. Right. Do your graph analytics in the data warehouse. Okay.
Then, for those of you that are not as familiar with Autonomous Data Warehouse, yeah, that builds upon the Oracle database, and it's kind of putting Oracle's best practice data warehouse practices, yeah, into the product. The Oracle database itself is very configurable, tunable. You run in the cloud anywhere you want. But then what they've done is taken their Exadata product and made basically a virtual private database available for just you, or a piece of the Oracle database, yeah, available for just you. Yeah. And then you can use it for all of that for your data warehouse purposes. Yeah. It does not have quite as much of the flexibility that the Oracle database has. It's configured specifically for data warehouse purposes.
Yeah. And Dan, just because we may have them on, we know the property graph, the PGX stuff is its own little engine sitting on top. Yeah, we're just excited about it. We know that there's a new standard coming out and everything. So, yep. In any case, we are maybe overkilled on that.
So the point in all of this, there's all sorts of different, just like in the armed forces, they all work together. There's a lot of overlap in the capabilities of this. Same thing with the Oracle products.
The Navy has planes. What? And the Army has boats.
Right.
And then the Air Force has people that train with machine guns. It's they all do all the stuff. Right. So we kind of see Oracle operating the same way. It all overlaps, which makes sense because you need those capabilities in certain situations. However, we do want to recognize their core reason for being and kind of focus on that front of the house, back of the house kind of dynamic.
Go ahead, Tim, go through this.
Yeah, so what we're seeing also is there are some people that are like, well, how do I put the architecture together? And what can I have? Can I have on-premise data warehouse and have OAC in the cloud? And the answer is yes. And can I have OAC in the cloud connect to an on-premise data source? Yes. And can I use an on-premise BI system connected to ADW? Yes. And so what we have is we have all these yeses, and the only one that we don't have right now, just the autonomous features of the data warehouse are really geared around the OCI Oracle Cloud capabilities and platform. There's a huge suite of capabilities that's coming out in terms of data catalog and the suite of tools that we have to work with ADW. And those things really come with Oracle Cloud. Now you can do Cloud Customer, and there's some other.
Well, that's the thing. I should update this slide.
Yeah.
Cloud at Customer.
Anyway, so but
there's
that. But
okay.
That was the point. The point is we get all that.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. The answer is there's mostly yeses, and we do a lot of those different combinations and whatnot.
Yeah. good with this, so we need to get going. Go ahead and go through this, Tim.
The real takeaway here is that ADW is the most comprehensive, Dan, I think is the key thing.
Yep.
We do see a lot of Snowflake and we see some Redshift and Azure is, now there's also a collaboration between Oracle and Azure. So that is pretty interesting, but fundamentally the ADW is running on Oracle's cloud. That's the big takeaway, okay? So this is really kind of adopting the CRISP DM data mining framework that we've used for many, many years and still seems to be the predominant best way to think about it, which is starting with business understanding and with data. And so what we're saying is when we're starting to build these analytic systems, we are differentiating the type of data. We're classifying it as to what it is. This is also particularly important with regards to streaming data and IoT data and all the different, we want to know what's most important and focus on that and get the modeling right and get the architecture for that first. And then treat, like I was saying before, treat the edge cases as edge cases. So trying to be comprehensive in a data warehouse, we're finding is more and more difficult. What we want to do is focus on the most important data in the analytic warehouse and make sure we're delivering analytics very, very fast and we're agile and we can kind of go around this circle very quickly. And that's what is delivering value to organizations. So it's starting with the use case as opposed to the data source. And Dan, you want to build this. So yep. Some of you may be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We see this as an analytics hierarchy of needs. So we need to start with clean, accurate data. That is the biggest need initially, and a lot of work needs to go into that, a lot more work needs to go into that. And what that does is once you have clean, accurate data, you can start to build consistency and trust. You get trust when you're consistent in your modeling and whatnot. And when you have the same definitions of things that mean the same thing across the organization. So this governance process really builds that. And then
Tim, I want to jump in here before
yeah.
you go on. This is where we run into issues with
yes.
some of our clients.
Yes.
And they do not get to you do not get to go to the next stage no. until you establish that trust in your data. Right. And that's where that's why we do this as a build from the bottom up. People are not interested in going to the next step until they're convinced that this is clean and accurate data and you have consistency of trust. Then you get to the next level,
which is all about aggregations, drill paths, the conformed dimensions, so that we're looking at things in a similar definition, and families or grouping strategies are consistent. And then, of course, when we get into enrichments, we get into what they call feature engineering and machine learning, which are all the comparisons and the visualizations and the share measures and difference measures and rate of change measures and all those kinds of things that we need to build and we need to show, because that's where the insight is. Oh, the sales were up in this area and down in this area versus last month versus last year, those kinds of things. And then, of course, once we have those, and we've built this up, now we can get into predictive analytics and machine learning and AI and all those kinds of things. Once we have this strong foundation in place, and of course, those can inform us as we're building these things. And what we're seeing is we're actually using a lot more of the predictive analytic features throughout our processes. So it's a little bit, we put it at the tippy top. We're actually using it to inform the decision-making that goes into the other levels. But, excuse me.
This is the stuff that Oracle likes to show, is that fancy stuff. If the Oracle people on the call don't mind a little bit of a dig, this is what sells, but you don't get to get there until you establish these other levels of the pyramid.
Yeah. So, so Dan, we have a question about the difference between a traditional data warehouse and an analytic warehouse. And I think if I can go ahead and take a
Yeah, go
stab
ahead and
at
do that.
So a traditional data warehouse is about being comprehensive and having a single version of the truth and having all your data from one place. And it's literally mostly about ETL and getting the data in, is the way I would characterize it. And it's that's how people think of it. And it's how it was described, you know, so particularly by Inman, by anyway, the big guys. What we're finding, sorry,
good.
We're saying an analytic warehouse is about delivering query results. An analytic warehouse is about doing these aggregations and doing enrichment and feature engineering and machine learning and geospatial analytics in a single place, so that we can build on that clean, accurate data. And so, and then what we have is we have all the other data sources, the edge cases, the unusual things, the dirty data. We leave it out. We treat it individually. We don't try to do everything all at once because we never get there. So an analytic warehouse is about having a high performance computing engine that can deliver analytic results very, very fast on the organization's most important data. And then we match it to the lake house and we have all the data available, but we don't worry about doing all the work that we have to do to put it inside the warehouse. That's really the concept.
Tim, one of the things I also want to get, I think the person was also asking about an autonomous data warehouse. The autonomous data warehouse, what Tim was describing, especially an analytic warehouse, the autonomous is where more of the housekeeping is done for you. You don't worry about how the indexes are set, that type of thing. That's what ADW brings to this, is a put it on autopilot, that type of thing is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, I think I'm going to jump ahead, Tim. This is where I would give the demo. I kind of showed this before, and let's go ahead and wrap up. Roger, any questions for this? And I think you have a poll, and people can ask questions while we're doing this, but I want to make sure we get to your poll.
As yet, there are no questions. There was one put into the chat, which came from Charles Barton. It says it was basically asking, you're saying you have dates in the titles, I assume not hard-coded.
Well, in the demo, those dates are controlled, I think, by the filter. So the filter, when I dragged August 2018, it put August 2018 automatically into the title area. And so, no, if I dragged something different, it would be different. Now, I am dragging specifically August 2018. So in some ways, it's hard-coded. In some ways, it's not. So hopefully that answers Charles's question.
Yeah, and in terms of getting titles to automatically update and the new DV interface and whatnot, we can have a long discussion about that. So
there are some areas where DV, frankly, needs some additional stuff to have some of that dynamic with presentation variables and such, where the classic answers interface has more flexibility in that area.
Well, and there are some hacky workarounds too, and some not so, and some good capabilities. But,
So what I've done in the meantime, gents, is I've put a link in the chat for SurveyMonkey, and if we can go ahead and
want me to click that?
Yeah, could you? I've got it here, but if you could put up the. Oh, you've got it. All right.
So that survey is there. And if you can fire the poll, Roger, that will ask people the preview of this on there. And I do have back here some resources that I'll put up while you're firing the poll. If you want to know more about this, this is the upcoming class I mentioned on Tuesday. We also have the blog entry on Redwood Light and more information on Oracle Analytics, just their page. And join us as part of the ANDOUC in the community for that.
Yeah, please do. Which one did you want me to do? The activities poll first, or?
Yeah, do the activities poll. That's great.
Okay, I'm going to launch it now. So now you should be able to input, if you go to that SurveyMonkey link, and we should be able to see results.
Well, I think they just answer in here. It should fire here with people asking them. This is kind of a preview of the poll that you do through the SurveyMonkey. We just wanted to capitalize on what you all feel is what you'd like us to do more of.
Okay, I have people busy.
They're answering, that's great. We wanted to capture this so that we can get the people that attend the webcast what you think about what we should be doing as a user group.
Yep.
Let that run a little longer, then we can fire one more poll, and then we'll let people go at the top of the hour.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, there's quite a few people who've voted.
Yeah, Dan, there were like 100 things we didn't cover.
I know. It's all right.
I knew you guys would do that, but yeah, I think what was good is what you covered was good and solid and gave us enough meat. So I don't think it was a problem. And yeah, you can go to the 3-hour session next week and get some more. Okay, it seems to have stopped moving. I'm going to say end poll, share results. So can you see that now?
Yeah.
So
I can see it. I don't know if the audience can see it. I'll drag this over, see if that helps.
Yeah, we can see
but
it.
I think it shares when you click that, Roger.
Yeah, it says
fire the other poll.
Okay, so now let's fire the other poll. So, but yeah, hands-on labs are by far top of the list here, and then Tech stays next. So we're doing the right sort of things, I think. Right. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and now I'm going to fire up.
Could be some selection bias with this group, of course.
Which one was this next?
Here, if I click share results, I think that shows the results.
Yeah, no, sorry, I've done that. I'm about to fire up the next one. Which was it called? Can you remember what it was?
The next one was the what would you pay?
Okay, cost of premium membership. Oh, here we are. And I'm launching it now. Okay, it's up.
So if we're doing this, we have to pay for the Zoom platform here. There are some costs that the user group kind of incurs in doing this, and then just for running the organization. And so we're contemplating having kind of a premium membership for some of the stuff. What would you think in terms of what you would pay? We're trying to figure out what we should do from a revenue model, especially with not having in-person summits, which we've been doing for, gosh, a decade. But now is kind of hard to do in this day. So what can we do from that? So we figured we'd ask the people on the webcast, would you consider a premium membership?
Right. And nobody's going for 149, eh?
No, I guess not.
What's wrong?
Okay.
I know what they're all going to say. They're all going to say, have Oracle pay it. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that would be nice too. But, all right, no, there's no real activity carrying on. I'm going to end that and then share results. Here you go. So
hopefully people can see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So really, all that remains for me to do is to just remind you to please send in abstracts for TechCasts. And if you did want to participate in our winter festival, then please do in our winter sessions. Please do send abstracts for that. The other thing is, if you do want your name in lights during the winter sessions, we give you slots and advertise your company. Please, again, look at the sponsorship page on our website, on the ANDOUC website. So yeah, with that, thank you very much, the Vlamis Mafia. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, it was good to hear your thoughts today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.